Hello, my name is Luca, I'm another Blender user and you've read the title. Let's get into it. Why are we rigging with object constraints? Well, it teaches you about the different types of constraints and how to use them, and it's a fun and simpler method than rigging with armatures. In this video, we'll be making a simple rig connected to a chess piece, and I'm going to use primitive shapes, but you don't have to. Let's get started. For our chess piece, we're just going to add in a basic cube, scale it on the z-axis, match your chess piece, and you can make it however you want. Now what we want to do is add in our shoulder piece. That's just get an empty, go GY, make sure you move it along the y-axis, otherwise it will stuff up our method later on. Okay, what we want to happen is that when we rotate the cube, the empty sticks to it. It will copy the location, but it won't copy the rotation. It'll rotate with the cube. So, we're going to select our empty, click add object constraint, and click child of. I'm going to take the little eyedropper icon and select our cube. Now what will happen is when we rotate the cube, the empty will follow. Just something simple. That's it. Now what we want to do is add our upper arm or our bicep, whatever you want to call it. Again, just going to add in a cube, going to go GY, bring it out to where the empty is, and I'm going to scale it on every axis except the z-axis. We can do this by pressing scale S, shift Y. That way scales everything but the y-axis. Now we want to move the origin here to where the empty is. By doing that, we press tab, we press G, press Y, and you can hold control to move it by 1 meter. Now press tab and just move it back to where it was. So now you can see when we rotate it, it rotates around the origin, which is now near the empty. Now the other thing we want to do is we want to have it so that wherever the empty moves, we want the arm to follow it. So we're going to add object constraint, copy location, and we're going to select our empty. Now you can see it copies the location. Pretty dandy. The other thing we want to do is we want to have the arm pointing towards the elbow. Now to do that, we're just going to add in our elbow piece, shift A empty, and just move it to where the elbow would be. Next thing, click our arm again, add an object constraint and click track to. This will point towards the empty now. So you see a problem here. It's not pointing towards the empty. Before you give up on me, I assure you we can fix this. Pretty simple and easy. Just press Z and then press Y. Now this should fix it. We just move it around and look at that, it points towards the empty. How great. That's exactly what we wanted. The next thing we want to do is we want the elbow to follow the arm. Not copy the location, but we want it so that if the arm moves away, the elbow doesn't, stay in its spot. We want it to be a certain distance away from the cube. So what do? We add an object constraint to our elbow and we select limit distance. Now click our cube and next thing, change the clamp region from inside to on surface and change the distance to whatever you want. I'm going to set it to around here. That way it's not directly on the mesh, but it's pretty close. And now when we move our arm, you can see the empty stays pretty close. And we can still move the empty in any direction we want. Now everything is moving nice and freely. Next thing we want to do is make a forearm. Now you can just duplicate your upper arm if you want, remove all the object constraints, and just move it in front of the empty. I'm going to scale it down just a little bit, just because proportions, I don't know. And now what we want is the forearm to follow the empty. Wherever the empty moves, we want the arm to move too. So add an object constraint, click copy location, and then just select our elbow. Now you'll see where it'll just follow. Pretty simple and easy. But again, just like the upper arm, we want it to point to something. What do we want it to point to? We want to point it to the wrist. So add in another empty, move that to where the wrist would be, and select your forearm, click track to, and track to our wrist piece. Same problem happening as before, but remember, just where it says up, press C, where it says track axis, press Y. And it should work properly now. So just like the elbow piece, we want to limit the distance from the empty to the cube. So click limit distance, click our forearm piece, change it from clamp region, from inside to on surface, and now it works like that. Just beautiful, 10 out of 10. But that's not all. What if you want to add in a hand? Well, that's pretty simple and easy. You can just duplicate one of these pieces, remove the object constraints, move it just in front of the wrist, and if you want, just change the shape to match your hand. Okay, so now that we have our shape, just select add object constraint, copy location, and select the wrist. Now everything moves freely. When we move our wrist, that moves. When we move our elbow, everything else moves too. And you'll notice as we rotate it, it all sticks to each other. That's pretty simple, easy, right? That's just our arm though. Let's say we want to rig a leg. Let's do that, because heck, why not? Okay, so now just press Shift A, add in a cube, press G, Z, and just scale it to the right shape that you want for the hip. Again, proportions don't have to be right, don't worry about it. I'm just going to set it to the shape that I want. Again, just going to use basic primitives. Now, if you have it so that you're rotating, or your viewport rotates around the main cube up here, and you want it to rotate around the hip, just hold Alt and the middle mouse button and click the hip. Now it'll rotate around. There you go. Now our leg piece is going to be very similar to our arm rig. By that, we're going to be using the same method but following along a different axis. So next thing you want to do is just press Shift S and click cursor to selected. That will move our world cursor to our hip. Press Shift A, empty, and then just move it to where you want your hip piece to be. So I'm going to move it down and just a little bit below the hip, and we're going to do the same thing as the shoulder. Add object constraint, child of, and then select your hip. Now when we rotate it, when we move it, it all follows. Nice and simple, nice and easy. Next thing we want to do is add in our upper leg. Just move that to wherever you want. Scale it on everything but the Z-axis for a basic leg shape, and press Tab, G, Z, hold Control, move the mouse down, and move it back. Get it as aligned as possible as you can to our hip joint, and we're basically going to follow the same steps as up here. So click the leg, add object constraint, copy location, follow the hip piece, and now we're going to add in our knee. Press Shift A again. Press Shift A, empty, and just move it to where our knee would be, around there, and have the leg track to or point to the knee. So now we have that. Select your knee, click limit distance, and select the cube. Also click inside to on surface. So now it can't move inside the mesh, and it'll only stay out here. So now that that's working, we want to add in our shin or calf or lower leg piece. I'm going to duplicate our upper leg, delete the object constraints from the duplicate, move it down, and then just scale it, just so it looks a little different. I'm going to go add object constraint, copy location, select the empty, and then we're going to add in our ankle piece. I'm going to duplicate another empty, move it down to where the ankle would be, select our lower leg, make it track to the ankle joint. Okay, depending on your mesh as well, you may have to change some of these settings. Sorry, next thing you want to do is select our lower leg, press X and Z, and then that should work. Again, select your ankle, limit the distance from the lower leg, and select from inside to on surface. And now that should work. Yeah, look at it go. If you want, we can add in a foot too. That's just pretty simple. Just add in a cube, or whatever shape you want. Scale it down to the shape. Change the origin to the top of the foot. And just align it with the ankle. And give it a basic foot shape, like that. Now what we want to do is click it, copy location, and copy the location of the ankle. Also what we can do is just copy the rotation of the ankle as well. Whoops, wrong one. Copy the rotation here, like that. So now wherever the ankle rotates, the foot rotates too. Who knew? Okay, next thing's next. We want to add in a torso. How do we do that? Next thing is press Shift S, cursor selected when you have the chest selected. Press Shift A, cube, and just change the shape to what you want. I'm going to just make it like that. And move the origin just to the bottom of the shape. And there we go. So now select our hip, go here, copy location, select our torso. Next just press offset and move it up to where the hip is, just like that. Now what we want to do is click the torso and click child of and select our chest piece. Now it's not perfect, but now it follows. It also follows its rotation too, so that's pretty handy. If you want to duplicate the arm to the other side, select the shoulder, the upper arm, the elbow, the lower arm, wrist, and the hand. Press Shift E, S, Y, -1. For -1, you just press the minus and then 1. And then we can just move it over to the other side there. And it should work now. Same thing, you do it with the leg. Select all the parts. Depending on your character shape, you may have to scale it along the y-axis like the arms, but I'm not going to. So anyways, yeah, that's the main body done. Now we can move everything, it all works. Next thing, if you want to add in a head and a neck, you can do that too. Let's get that done. Add in an empty, move it up to here, move it up to where the neck would be, with the head, click child of, make it child of the chest, add in our neck piece, gonna add in the cube, go GZ, I'm gonna scale it along everything except the Z-axis, whoops, change the origin, move it down to where the neck would be, and then go copy location, select our empty, and just scale the neck down. Also now to add our head, we'll just go Shift A, GZ, scale it up, get the general head shape. Also, we want to add in the second joint to the neck, the little top bit, whatever you'd like to call it. Click that, select our neck again, press track 2, and track it to that shape. Again, the offset will be wrong, so just find the right offset. That should be it, like that. Now look at that. With our upper neck joint, I'll call it that, just limit the distance from the neck. That should work. And then with our cube, bring it down, and then go copy location of our empty. So now should be all working nice and fine. This isn't the best rig, but it works. It doesn't work as good, but it's a nice, simple, quick and easy method.